Kia ora whānau. Today we've got a very special guest. We've got Allana Prestney here. She's treasurer of the Taranaki Maori Rugby League. And unfortunately for the Maori Rugby League this year, we've had problems getting our teams together for our annual tournament, mainly to do with the situation with COVID, but and the team not being able to get together. But Allana, you'd be disappointed that all the hard work and preparation for the tournament has had to be put on the back burner.
Yeah, it wasn't so much a case of teams not getting together. It was more around the safety of our teams, the COVID regulations, the crowd control, how will we control the tracing, and all that sort of stuff is what impacted on it. And we only made that decision on Monday night when we met. And I think coming off also the back of Tumai also cancelling or postponing, New Zealand Maori Rugby League cancelling the Labour Weekend national tournament, that we kind of sat and felt that we needed to sit in line with that as well. We'd already postponed once due to COVID, and this became our big decision. Do we go ahead with it or do we not? And for the safety of our whānau and ourselves, we decided no, it was a good decision to make and just cancel for this year.
Yeah, so I've been involved in quite a few different sports, and we're all having the same thought. How do they maintain that, you know, the protections and just numbers and so forth, and it is very difficult. Looking slightly ahead, is there any chance of maybe running it in the pre-season, or has there been any discussion on a future date?
It kind of rides a lot on the overall rugby league calendar as well. So if we looked at it, for instance, we ran our premiers and youth grades in the pre-season time. So it was February, March, into early April, and then our juniors started anyway. That we probably wouldn't have a time slot that we could potentially look at to accommodate everyone. Some of our teams indicated through their delegates the other night that they will probably organise their own games between each other. And as a committee, we've said, you know, like, we're all for that. If we can support by people on the ground, if we can support financially, we just need to know what teams are actually looking at doing. So, you know, the options are there for games to be had where the control of crowds and that can be a little bit more easier managed. So some of the annual iwi games will probably still go ahead between the different iwi that have trophies already that they play for every year. So there is some scope for that to be happening before we roll into our junior grade tournaments in the new year anyway.
Right. The possibility, you know, like Waverley was talked about as the venue, and it would be disappointing for the South that we couldn't run it there. It's would have been the first time any major rugby league tournament had been held down in that area, and would have been fantastic.
It would have been great. Yep.
Yes.
It would have been great. So we've already said to them that they will host next year, so that we don't take that ability away from them. So it's just a matter of them rolling everything into next year that was organised for this year. We don't want to take the hosting rights away from them just because of COVID. So it will still be there next year. We're not changing who hosts and the venues, and all our venue providers and people that were going to be involved and sponsors and stall holders have all been informed that we would like to relink with them for next year. So we actually have them all sitting there waiting for the date, and then we'll just roll it all out again.
Oh, that's good, because it's we do seem to stack things. Makes it a lot of travel for those South teams. How many teams did we end up having at the other night?
We had 9, I think, was our
9.
total that we were looking at. No,
Okay, I
no,
heard there was
sorry,
8,
8.
but
The 8 iwi all represented as normal. Yeah, and
yeah.
wahine.
Oh, cool.
So
Oh,
we had the probably going to have 3 wahine teams enter as
yeah,
well this time, but still to be confirmed. Theirs was potentially on numbers, but certainly
yeah,
our 8 usual iwi teams
yeah,
were pretty
yeah.
confident they would have teams. So yep,
Awesome. Yeah.
no straying away from that.
So the boys would be quite disappointed. The Maori tournament in Rotorua is
Mm,
cancelled as well. It's
yep.
been a venue and an opportunity to play that everyone looks forward to every year.
Mm.
What is the future looking there? I hear there's a sneaky little body up in Auckland trying to muscle in a little bit on that tournament.
Yeah. I think that those little bodies around the outside are always going to be there.
Yeah.
Thinking sometimes that they can make more of a difference than what's already happening. For
Mm,
us here, having had to postpone our local first dated tournament, we were struggling to get numbers to be able to do a rohe, waka, and a wahine team anyway. So
mm,
we were only going to be sending a waka team this year. And
yeah.
so it kind of hasn't impacted as much because generally everyone plays in our tournament to be able to have
Yes.
some selection criteria available for them to be picked for a waka or picked for the rohe team.
Mm,
So we were basically having to pick the teams from players who had registered online and said they were available to play, and then they kind of
yeah.
weren't. And I think there was so much uneasiness about the safety of travelling away as well that
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
all the players that originally registered then were feeling comfortable and safe to take it on. So
Mm.
we were only going to be sending one team anyway in the
Especially
end.
now that the Auckland boundary, sort of
Yes.
sneaking further and
Yeah.
further down the island.
Yeah.
So we're
Totally.
yeah, it's getting closer and closer. So
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
mm.
Yeah.
Oh well, we look with interest. I suppose they're taking it week by week, and
Mm,
the vaccinations, if they all go ahead, and the big push to
yeah.
get everybody done, then
Yeah.
the levels may drop down a little bit. But
Mm.
how do you see if it gets to that 85, 90% vaccination? Do you think that games like ours can still go ahead with the close contact that we have physically in our game? Do you think just
And
being
now,
vaccinated is going to be enough to run the games?
yeah, certainly we trialled it throughout the junior season for General League in Taranaki last year,
Mm,
when we got to level 2, where the crowd control sort of levels were 100, and because we travel to clubs, we put gaps between games to allow one game to be played, then have a space of time for
yeah,
them to exit and the next grade come in rather than everyone being there at the
yeah,
venue at
yeah.
once. And
Mm-hmm.
so we kind of practiced a lot of those first time COVID things where all our managers had all the COVID stuff they needed, hand sanitizer, the balls were wiped after
Yeah,
games.
yeah.
We separated our
Mm,
crowd, and it was a good trial for us, I think, to be able to roll it across all our games, no matter in
yeah.
what capacity we're playing in, whether it's Māori or mainstream rugby league. And we
Mm,
have really good people within our clubs at the moment that work together rather than against each other, which was some of the past history,
mm, mm.
where everyone was just solely controlling their own clubs, whereas we all work together now, and and just made sure that it could happen for our tamariki. It can
Yes.
happen in the senior space as well,
Yeah.
as long as we have it
Yeah.
controlled, and it's
Yeah.
about
True.
how we control it, and
Yeah.
that's up to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's got to be on. Pulling
Same
the.
page.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just you get those ones that are a little bit stubborn and
Yes.
they could sort of upset the card
Mm,
a bit. But, oh, that's good if it's working there and you've had the
yeah.
opportunity to put it into place. Well, then there's no reason why it can't
Mm.
roll
I
over
think
into other areas.
I think the kaupapa that we've developed across rugby league, which some of it has come from Mātauranga Māori concepts within Taranaki Whānui, for instance,
Oh
has
yeah,
made the game a lot more harmonious for us to play.
yeah.
We don't have as much of that sideline abuse going on. And
Oh,
interesting, when we do travel, we notice it from other regions that they haven't taken on board some of the campaigns around cleaning up our game.
yeah,
Be a sport, just support vests
yeah.
that were rolled out by New Zealand, for instance, and supported by New Zealand Māori. We've been one
Mm,
of the few regions that has actually been able to pull it off, and it's
yeah.
made our game better. We
Mm,
still have I suppose the biggest core of our game where we need more people involved is in the refereeing
yeah.
side of the game. We're still a bit low on those numbers, but the more we clean up our sidelines, the more confident people are to put a whistle in their hand, get out there, because without them we can't play. And
Mm,
so it's about training our people to be those people as well. And so we're
mm.
doing quite a bit of work in the undergrowth to get that level of refereeing up, where people are confident, they don't get abused, all those things. And by tidying up our game right across the board, it makes a difference, and it's made a difference here.
Well, it's really good to hear because I was one of the worst, and
We
when
know.
I'm coaching,
Yeah.
if everything doesn't go my way, I don't like
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So
And
I
now,
mean,
now
there
when I'm
is that
watching,
element of competitiveness that we all have, but it's about how we
mm,
manage that better, so we
yeah,
don't have that. And yeah, there's a lot of our older generation leagueies that were the ones we could point finger at, but it's about the up and coming, seeing
yeah,
the game from a different angle, and
true,
having that whanaungatanga going on, which rugby league in New Zealand has always been profound for, but we've never
yeah,
displayed it really well. So
yeah,
for Taranaki in the past 5 years, where we've come from to where we are today is absolutely
mm,
amazing.
that's
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, I must say I've mellowed over the years, but those NRL boys still get heckles up a little bit. I can tell you that. But they can't hear me from my lounge room, so
Yeah, hard.
they get enough from Australia anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, the
No, you're
tightening up
talking,
of
you're
our
talking about you're talking about Tamariki and that I noticed that the numbers and that still training there, and the kids getting away and still being
yeah.
carted around by the mums and dads and so forth
Yep,
like that. Is it your numbers still as strong as they always were?
very strong. So even in
Yeah.
the mainstream game, we had close to 800. What did we have? Something like 880 odd kids playing rugby league this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
So then
Yeah.
that flicks across to Māori,
Mm,
where we were taking away, or our aim was to take away every single kid or tamariki that wanted to play for Māoris. So if
mm,
it meant we were taking two tens teams, two 11s, three even, that's what we
mm,
worked towards. That was our aim.
mm.
That
Yeah.
and we did. We managed that in some of our sectors. So tamariki, we had two tens,
Yeah.
and each campaign worked really hard under a coordinator. So I
Mm,
coordinated the Tamariki campaign, and we just grew in numbers, and we were the first tournament off the rank, and took away
mm.
four teams. So,
All
if we
right.
can manage that every campaign and every
Yeah.
age group, that we can be doing at least one team in every grade that's on offer, then we're
Mm,
doing what we need to do for our tamariki, and then they get
yeah.
the
True.
opportunities in the mainstream game as well. But for Māoris,
True.
it's about a different different way of playing the game, a different way of being involved in the game. And for some of our whānau who have never been involved in any kaupapa Māori space, it became quite overwhelming for them as well. So in the process, we're teaching them how to be Māori, I suppose, in a Māori space. And all those things just have a trickle-on effect. You just can't beat it.
It's not only here. I know that in at the New Zealand Rugby League, Greg Peters, he attended the Māori tournament. He was absolutely astounded by the strength of the game that the JD and them have worked so hard to create, and now he's a firm believer in that. But there was a time when New Zealand Rugby League were slightly not opposed, but it wasn't a major interest for them. Now they see the strength of the whole game in Māoridom. Changed the attitude so much. So, as you say, that flow-on effect, and then those tournaments at the next level, as they graduate through, has a major effect on the. They understand how the game is influences Māori to a tremendous extent. Yeah,
and
so
I suppose the flip side of some of that is that a lot of our management and whānau that travel away with these teams to our Māori tournaments bring that same āhua and kaupapa back into their clubs. So it has a ripple-on effect. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we see it out on the fields. And when we look at our player base, we're 90%, probably between 90 and 95% of our player base are Māori or Pacifica. You know, and Pacifica. So why wouldn't we want to have that roll-on effect from we play the mainstream competition as clubs, and if we can have that whānau concept within our clubs, which we've worked hard to get into our clubs a little bit more, then it's easy to transition our people into taking up positions in the Māori game. Very easy, because we've provided them that baseline to coach and be trained, to manage and be trained, to ref and be trained, and so on and so forth. And we're not having to repeat it when they come into Māoris, because they've already got it.
Their organizational skills are enhanced.
Totally.
Because, you know,
totally
takes a bit of pressure off you guys.
Well, it does in a sense. The biggest thing at the moment that needs to be fixed is our Taranaki Rugby League forum, which is being worked on at the moment. And we have an AGM or special general meeting coming up on the 14th of November, which is having that looking a little bit different moving forward. And all our clubs are on board, which is a really, really good thing. So it kind of has gone a complete cycle almost, Teri. I remember when I first started getting involved with rugby league as a mum and came to TRL board meetings back then when you were on them, where it was a representation of all our clubs. Well, that's what we're looking at, having that same kind of format now. So all the other ways have been tried and haven't really worked. So we're heading back to that again. So that's the people of the game that are administering the game.
True. Yeah, well, that's good. It's good things are moving forward. I'm pleased to hear that. So, all right. So next year, what are we looking for? We hope to be in an open situation, or it's obviously the government's going to have a lot to do with that. But you know, their grounds are all. Everyone's grounds are all in good nick. Everyone's got the facilities they need. I know Waitara needs some changing rooms, which we're working on at the moment, and there's a good group of people that are doing the utmost to raise finance for that, and so everybody else is looking strong.
I mean, that's been some of the good stuff with the way, particularly our junior board has moved things is about that support for clubs. What do you need? You know, what's going to make you a really good club? What are some of the things you're missing? And we're all kind of in pretty much the same boat around venue. You know, we're having to rely on hiring the fields and amenities blocks and whatnot from our council at quite an exorbitant amount.
Yeah.
And if we can affect that in our, for those of us that have got our own buildings, to be able to build on those and have all of that facilitated, so that we're not actually paying dead money to the council as a way of speaking,
Yeah.
you know, where we're not at our fields every single week, but we're being charged for every single week of our contracted season. So it's even about working with our council better to say, well, actually, we have a 10-week competition, but we're only actually here 4 weeks, and you're charging us for 10 weeks of use. So how does that work? So we've been doing a bit of that work as well in the background, having them actually be affected by what use we're actually making of their grounds. So,
that's
you know,
the big thing.
the maintenance.
The councils have got to appreciate the value that the clubs do for their communities, instead of trying to strangle them into submission.
Exactly.
To actively encourage them by making it as easy as possible. And sometimes some of the regulations make it more difficult to do things. And, So
when we've got clubs like Coastal, for instance, who have to use the event centre down there, they have to also use the caterers that are there. And what they have to pay to use that, say 4 times a year, is out of the financial restraints of what that club can pull in. You know, and then we've got Hawera down in the Hawera hub, for instance. You know, and it just makes it really, really hard.
They're massive, expensive buildings to maintain, and they've got virtually private enterprise running. So they're all there to make a quid, and unfortunately, it's at the expense of the people who really least can afford it. I remember.
So I mean, here in Bell Block, for instance, we had the idea of a hub coming in here, where all our sports codes would come under that. Well, it would have been exactly the same as Coastal was experiencing. So where does the flip side of that go? It goes back on our whānau. Means we're going to have to charge more fees. You know, when you look at some of the other hubs around the country, some of our Wellington and Auckland clubs are charging their kids $150 just to be able to use those venues. I mean, no way would we want to do that when we've got whānau here that have 3 or 4 kids, and some even more, and then we're going into the Māori season and they're having those same 3 or 4 kids playing in 3 different campaigns. I mean, it's just money all the time. And we can't get funding for fees.
And you've got to remember, that's only one sport as well.
Exactly.
A lot of kids will play 3 or 4 different sports, and they get, whether they're playing touch or they're swimming or whatever. There is multiple arms reaching out for the cash. No, I understand exactly where.
And they are very talented kids. You know, you see in all these rugby rep teams and touch rep teams, they're all our league kids as well. You know, they're all sitting in these different things. And the money that these whānau have to be paying out to have their kids representing this region can be out the gate by the end of it.
Yes, well, I've been there and done that. And
haven't we all?
Working in the schools and that, you see it over and over again. You do your best to help out where you can, but, you know, and it's generally that same really good athlete that gets picked in everything, unfortunately. But, oh, well, you're doing your best you can. It sounds like things are on the build, and then there's development there, Allana. So congratulations on that. Yes. No, well, it's good to hear. For all those people out there that were looking forward to the Māori tournament, we apologise for not being able to play this year, but next year maybe we'll be up and going again, and those people down in Waverley we'll be all down to see you then. And, Is there anything else you'd like to add, Allana?
No, probably just acknowledge our people on the ground that do all the hard work. I want to make a special mention to Wayne Kappa, who has recently resigned from our committee after long-term work leadership as he's following his son to Australia.
And done a great job.
And we've had a few resignations from our committee as well for various reasons. So anyone out there want to join us, feel free. We'll take you on, and we'll take you under our umbrella, and we'll get you working your little, you know what, off. Because without a core group of people, we know Māori are not always the ones that want to put their hand up and be on a committee, but we tend to not have long committee meetings. We know what our business needs to be. We come together, we have them. We're probably an hour to an hour and a half longest. So I just want to put that out there, whānau. Come and join us, because the more heads around the table, the more productive we can be. So that's probably my last plug.
Well, I'd just like to endorse what you said about Wayne. He's been fantastic, and we wish him all well as young fella going over there to try his luck in the big city, in our old business. So it's a tough gig in itself, but whatever. I know Wayne, he goes 100% whatever he does. So he's done a great job with us. So congratulations and good luck to them.
Hard.
All right, then, Allana, look, thanks for coming on and spending some time with us. I know you've had a busy day, and we appreciate you making yourself available to us to, just spread the word and let people know exactly what's going on. And again, thanks for your hard work.
Kia ora. Thank you for having me.
All right, awesome.